Hello, my name is Alex Dyer. I'm the Canon Ordinary for the Episcopal Church in Colorado. And I'm standing here or virtually here with two of my colleagues. I wish I was standing there with you guys. I wish we were all in the same room, but we are not, and we'll talk more about that later. But here in the age of COVID, we're having some Canon conversations. So have you all introduced yourself? Michelle, would you want to go first?
Yeah, thank you. I'm Michelle Danson. I'm a priest in the diocese. I specialize in supply ministry. I'm a spiritual director and retreat leader.
Great. And Greg?
I get to serve with you, Alex. I am the canon for formation in the office of the bishop, so I get to work with congregations and clergy all over Colorado in support of their formation ministries. And I also serve as a spiritual director.
We'll talk a little bit more about spiritual direction as we go on so we can know what it is. But I want to kind of start off with a definition of spirituality. It's a word that's thrown around a lot, and a lot of people mean different things when they say spirituality. But I would love to hear from you guys. How do you define spirituality?
Well, for me, I would say the first thing I would say is that spirituality is how we integrate our theological understanding in our everyday life here and now. So it incorporates every single aspect of our life, and it's really where the rubber meets the road, how we live life, and as I say, integrating our theological understanding.
Greg?
And I guess I would add to that to me, spirituality hints at that inner work that we feel drawn and called to as human beings. That sense that there's something beyond ourselves, something greater than ourselves, something we call God. And there's something in God to be encountered and explored, and a relationship to be cultivated. So spirituality is all around that to me. It's all the work we do, all the exploring we do, all the practices we do that support that journey with God.
Right. So if you both identified as spiritual directors, how would you define spiritual direction to someone who's never heard that term?
Well, I always start off by saying spiritual direction is a misnomer because there's no direction. It's not like I'm the expert and I'm helping you find the path that you've lost or something like that. Spiritual direction for me is basically a listening ministry where we listen to the person who's in front of us. We listen to how God is working in that person's life, and we listen to how the Holy Spirit may be nudging them along. I always say that the important thing is that the locus of control is always in the directee. It's not in the spiritual director. So we're discerning together, and as a director, I may offer suggestions, insights, reflect back things I hear, but it's up to the directee whether or not they work with whatever is offered.
And I might add, I think of Margaret Gunther and that sense of the work we do in holy listening. And what that means is that when we sit with someone and listen, there's also a third chair there, and we imagine the Spirit in that third chair. So spiritual direction is a practice that is a beautiful invitation to be invited to walk with someone as they explore their spiritual life and spiritual journey. And it's different than other helping professions in that it's all about tending to the holy and the sacred and that which is moving in someone's life and someone's experience.
So hopefully all the clergy in our diocese are seeking spiritual direction, but is spiritual direction just for clergy, or what can lay people get out of spiritual direction?
A lot. Yeah, it's for everybody who's serious about their spiritual walk. And so it really does cover everybody in all life situations. And it covers everything in their life. So there's nothing that's outside the realm of spiritual direction. So it doesn't have to be sort of specifically holy conversations. It's really where the rubber meets the road, integrating life.
To me, spiritual direction is so helpful for everybody because it gets at those questions of, well, I'm longing to discover if there's more to this life. And I'm wondering how I make meaning. I think in a time like now, especially how we make meaning and how we find hope is deep work. And what a great gift spiritual direction can be to explore that possibility.
Speaking of this time, Greg, there's been a lot of concern about our mental health and our physical health, and to get out there too. A lot of the secular media has not talked about our spiritual health. How do you think in this time of staying home, or sheltering in grace, as we're calling it, what is God teaching us? How is it shaping our spirituality? What is this doing to us as spiritual beings?
Seems to me that we're being invited into living life in a new way, in a new rhythm. We often say, when we think of spirituality, and certainly monastics through history have come up with rules of life, which mean rhythms of life that help guide the way we mark our days, and the way we acknowledge God's presence in our days, and the way we structure a healthy, well kind of living with God. And it feels like this time is inviting us to maybe step back from the rule of life we maybe had before, and say, so what would a new rhythm and a new rule of life look like for us that could cultivate some deeper awareness of God's presence and
Can you just remind us,
acknowledgement of other people?
Can you remind us what a rule of life is for people?
I think a rule of life in its simplest way is just a way of organizing your life. It's a way of, traditionally it was a method of marking the day in a alternating rhythm of work and prayer. So St. Benedict and others in history have very famous rules of life that have been carried out in all kinds of ways. Season feels like it's calling us to look at that with fresh eyes. And imagine, how do we mark our days? How do we permeate them with God? How do we cultivate healthy relationships and community, even as in this time of distancing?
I would add to that that it's a good opportunity for us to really go down deep and experience God as a God of abundance, a God of love and compassion, and to not be in a state of scarcity. And so I think as Westerners, we have cushioned ourselves so much, and we think that we're safe with all the things we put in place, whether it's our finances or our careers or our health, and for us to actually dig down deep and come to the root of the fact that we do live in with a God that is a God of abundance. So I would add to that as well, and that we really need to take this time to face our own mortality, not in a scared way, but actually in a way that manifests the faith we say we believe in. And that can come down to practical things of putting our affairs in order and doing things like that, but also things like, why don't we write those letters to the people that we care about and put them in sealed envelopes, so that if we are one of those people that gets taken into ICU and doesn't come out, there is something for those people that we love dearly and deeply, and it gives us a chance to actually acknowledge that, and not coming from a place of fear, but a place of grace.
I rarely get to preach, but I did get to preach at St. Luke's Denver on Ash Wednesday. And after all this, I thought, can I get a redo on my Ash Wednesday sermon? Because it does, it talks about mortality in a lot of real way. And it's one of those few opportunities on our liturgical calendar to really talk about that. And had I known, then what I know now, it would be totally different. So anyway, I just want to kind of transition at this point to what are we learning from this? What is God teaching us in this era, as far as a church, as far as God's people? I think God is constantly teaching us stuff at times. So in this age, what lessons do we need to take into the church of the future?
I guess I feel like this is a great opportunity for connecting with God and learning about ourselves, each other, and God's presence with us through all of this. For I think, Michelle, as you said, this is a great time to let go of those old things that we had and to say, what are the new ways that we can explore God's presence with us, the healing capacity that God gives us and gives all of creation. I also wonder if it isn't an invitation to be invited to the depth of our faith. And when I think of that, I think of something like the Great Commandment. And a simple thing like loving God and loving our neighbor has a whole new way of being experienced by me. I mean, it's a sense of now we have new opportunities of how we will encounter God and the people around us who are in such need. And so it feels like it gets us back to the beginning of the story and maybe in a deeper way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, we've just read The Road to Emmaus, and that was not just a journey, it was a pilgrimage for them. And in that journey, they were transformed. And the option that we have now is we're on a pilgrimage. We may not be geographically going anywhere, but we are given the opportunity to do this deep transformation. And I think it's not just the church. I think we're in an evolutionary time. And I think this is a time when spirituality and science can integrate together in this evolutionary time. And I think people like Thierry de Chardin and Ilia Delio and Cynthia Bourgeot are all talking to us about this option that we have, that we can actually do the work of this transformation individually, because the whole of civilization is evolving and we are part of it. And we may not live to see that, but we have a responsibility, those that have awakened to our spiritual journey, to do that work, because we're not just doing it on behalf of ourselves, we're doing it on behalf of the whole, and the whole that is now, but the whole that is coming. So I do have a science background, I have a physics background, and so I get really excited that I'm part of this evolutionary journey. The work that I'm doing, whether it's meditating, journaling, going for intentional walks that are more like pilgrimages than just getting my exercise, that I am contributing to the whole in a way that I will never see, but I have a knowing that that's what I'm doing, that it's something, it's a container far bigger than just popping out the other side of this period of time.
Awesome. Any final thoughts?
I guess I'm struck also that this is a spiritually renewing time for us as individuals, but also as the church. And it gives us a chance to envision how we are community together for each other, and caring and loving and supporting each other. But I think also a chance of looking around us and turning outside and finding how those people who are vulnerable and in need around us, we can support them. What are the partnerships and the connections we can build in church that make for meaningful healing now and in the time that will follow in each of our communities? It feels like a huge time. I like that word you use, Michelle, a great time for transformation for us individually, but also collectively as the church.
I think that even though we're apart, some people are more interconnected than ever, in the sense of before. I mean, our previous model of church is if you didn't show up to church on Sunday, you might get a call, you might get a whatever too, but there's lay people and priests are reaching out on almost on a weekly basis to connect with people in a real way, and not light conversations, but kind of more profound connections is great. And I sure hope it's something we can hold on to, which means we may have to give some other stuff up, but I think it's reprioritizing us. Any other final thoughts, Michelle?
No, I think we're in this paradoxical place of great fear and great hope, and we have to live in that paradox of the both and. It's not one and not the other.
And this is not the first time the people of God have encountered this.
No, and any birthing process involves death and is scary. And that's the reality of the way things come forth.
Greg, I was wondering if you could close us in that poem that you read to me a little while ago.
There was a teacher in Wisconsin early in the pandemic who wrote a poem that I think is helpful as a way to imagine what the possibility of this time is. So I invite us to hear the words of Kitty O'Meara. And the people stayed home and read books and listened and rested and exercised and made art and played games and learned new ways of being and were still and listened more deeply. Some meditated, some prayed, some danced, some met their shadows, and the people began to think differently. And the people healed, and in the absence of people living in ignorant, dangerous, mindless, and heartless ways, the earth began to heal. And when the danger passed and the people joined together again, they grieved their losses and made new choices and dreamed new images and created new ways to live and heal the earth fully as they had been healed. And
Amen.
Thank you all for your time. It's great to catch up with you guys virtually. And I'm excited to see the way God will continue to work in people's lives as this pandemic continues on. There are a lot of horrible things that are happening, but I also believe that there are some good things that God is doing as well. So thank you all.
Thank you, Alex.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.